Welcome to Hidden Ties, where every story hides a deeper truth. I was lying in that sterile hospital bed, feeling more alone than I ever had before. As the doctors told me the worst news of my life, my parents were nowhere to be found. Then, weeks later, when I thought I'd finally found peace, they showed up, but only to argue over the inheritance with my sister, like I was nothing but a nuisance. Before we continue, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? I'd love to know. My name's Tina Williams. I'm 52 years old, living in a quiet little apartment tucked into the corner of a suburban neighborhood. I've worked as a high school English teacher for the last 30 years, and though it's been far from glamorous, it's been steady. A bit dull, sure, but I didn't mind. You'd think someone like me would be okay with it, but I wasn't. I was tired of the same routine. I wanted change, something. Anything that made life feel more than just this. I was always the practical one in my family, the responsible one. My sister Alyssa, she was the free spirit, the one who always took risks. While I took care of things, held down the fort, Alyssa was off chasing some new dream, one that usually ended up crashing into the next. Yet somehow, my parents treated her like she could do no wrong. That's what made what happened next even worse. I was in the middle of a routine checkup when the doctor pulled me aside. "Tina," he said, looking at me with an expression I couldn't quite place, "there's something we need to discuss." I remember nodding, though I didn't understand. I wasn't one to dwell on things. Maybe he just wanted to talk about my cholesterol again, or my blood pressure. Something normal, something boring. But then he said it. "You've got cancer, stage 4. It's spread to your liver." I froze. Cancer. Me. "You'll need to start treatments immediately," he added, though I could barely hear him now. My mind was too loud, racing with thoughts that made no sense. How could this be happening to me? I was always so careful, so healthy. There had to be a mistake, but there wasn't. And just like that, everything in my life, everything I thought I knew, was crumbling around me. It wasn't until a week later, when I was sitting in that hospital room, hooked up to tubes and IVs, that I truly realized how alone I was. My parents hadn't come to visit me, not once, not even a phone call, not when I was in pain, not when I needed them most. Instead, Alyssa showed up. I remember how she looked at me, sitting at my bedside, tears welling in her eyes. "I didn't think it would be like this," she whispered. But she wasn't here for me. No. Alyssa had come to talk business. She came for something else. "You need to talk to Mom and Dad," she said, fidgeting with her hands, her voice a little too sharp, a little too rehearsed. "About the inheritance." I blinked, confused. "What? What are you talking about?" She shifted uncomfortably in the chair, looking away. "Mom and Dad are going to need to make decisions soon. You've always been the one to handle everything. They want you to make sure the will is updated." I could barely process what she was saying. Alyssa, I'm dying." And she simply nodded. "I know." The words hit harder than any treatment could. I couldn't believe it. All these years I'd taken care of them, kept the house in order, made sure they never needed anything. But when I needed them most, they weren't there. Instead, Alyssa was at my side. Not for comfort, not to help, but to make sure I got everything in order for them. For the money. The next few days blurred together in a haze of hospital smells, dull lights, and constant beeping machines. I didn't want to face it, didn't want to face the fact that my life was slipping away. But Alyssa kept coming by, day after day, always talking about the same thing, the inheritance. It was like a weight that hung between us, pressing down on everything else. She'd ask me to sign documents, make decisions I wasn't ready for, as if I wasn't even in the room. My parents never visited, not once. Instead, they called, always when they had something to say about the house, the money, who would take care of what once I was gone. I could hear the edge in their voices, their impatience. Like I was some inconvenience, like I was already dead to them. The only thing that mattered now was who got what. "Mom, I'm still here," I said one day, my voice barely above a whisper as I tried to focus on the phone call. "I need you here." "Well, dear," my mother said, her voice stiff as usual, "we just have so much to do. You know, the business isn't going to run itself." I felt my stomach drop. "Business? You're really going to talk about business right now?" She sighed. "You always did get emotional. Just get those papers signed and everything will be taken care of. You've been so strong. Your father and I are proud of you." Proud of me? Proud of the fact that I'd given up my life for them, only to be left to die alone in a hospital bed while they fussed over their finances? I wanted to scream, but instead I hung up the phone. Alyssa was right. They didn't care about me. They cared about what I could do for them, even now when I was at my weakest. As the days passed, the sickness started to take its toll on me. I could barely get out of bed. My body felt like it was betraying me, and all I could do was lie there and let it happen. Sometimes I thought it would be easier if I just let go. But then I'd think about everything they'd done, and everything they hadn't done, and something inside me snapped. I wasn't going to let them win like this. They'd ignored me when I needed them, humiliated me when I was at my lowest, and now they thought they could waltz in and take everything they wanted without a second thought. No, I was done. It started as a quiet thought, something I wasn't sure I'd even act on, but as the days wore on, that thought began to grow. I'd been weak for too long. It was time to fight back. If they weren't going to respect me in life, they sure as hell wouldn't get to walk all over me in death. But there was one thing I needed first. A plan. The hospital room felt more like a prison every day. The white walls, the sterile air, the never-ending beeping of machines that reminded me how much time was slipping away. But I wasn't just laying there anymore. I was thinking, plotting. I couldn't believe how easily my parents had dismissed me, how they had reduced me to a financial transaction. But I wasn't some pawn to be moved around for their convenience. I wasn't going to let them sweep my entire life under the rug just because they thought I was done for. It started with a phone call to my lawyer, a woman named Karen, who had helped me with legal matters before. I could barely speak at first, my voice weak, hoarse from days of barely being able to eat or drink. But when I explained what was happening, what my parents were doing, she listened. And for the first time in weeks, I felt like I wasn't invisible. "I'll come by tomorrow," she said. "You need to make sure everything is documented. If your parents are trying to pull something, we need to be ready." I nodded, even though I knew she couldn't see me. "Thank you," I whispered. "You don't know what this means to me." When Karen showed up the next day, I was barely able to sit up in bed, but I did. I knew I couldn't waste this chance. I explained everything, how Alyssa had been asking me to sign documents I didn't understand, how my parents had made no effort to come see me, how they only cared about their own inheritance plans. Karen was quiet for a moment, thinking, "I think I understand what's going on here, Tina. They want to make sure everything is set before you die. But it sounds like they've already written you out of the picture." I swallowed, the lump in my throat thickening. "That's what it feels like, but I need to stop them. I need to make sure that when I go, they can't just take everything and leave me with nothing." Karen nodded. "We'll need to get your affairs in order, Tina. I'll help you revise your will, but you need to be certain about your decisions. You don't want to leave anything open to their manipulation." I thought about it for a moment. Could I really do this? Could I really leave them with nothing? My whole life, I had been the good daughter, the one who sacrificed everything for them, but they never appreciated me, never showed up when I needed them, and now they were treating me like I didn't matter at all. "Yes," I said, more firmly than I had in days. "I want to make sure they get nothing." Over the next few days, Karen helped me make sure everything was in order. I updated my will, changing everything I could. I wasn't going to let my parents walk in, acting like nothing had happened, and just take it all. But I couldn't just leave it there. I needed to do something more. I needed them to understand that they couldn't just erase me from the picture, that I wasn't going to go quietly. The day Karen left, I felt more determined than I had in a long time. But something else stirred inside me, a feeling that maybe, just maybe, I could make them regret what they'd done. I could make them feel what I had felt all these years. I had no idea how I would do it, but I knew it was time. Later that night, Alyssa came in again, as she always did. She was still asking me to sign more documents, pushing for more decisions, but I was done. "No more," I said, my voice stronger now. "I'm not signing anything else." Alyssa raised an eyebrow, confusion flashing in her eyes. "What do you mean? We need this done, Tina. We don't have much time." "I'm not signing," I repeated, my words sharp. "I've made my decisions." She stood there for a moment, staring at me, her lips pressing into a tight line. I could see the tension in her shoulders, the annoyance rising. "You're being difficult," she said, her voice clipped. "This isn't about you anymore, Tina. This is about getting things in order." "It's always been about getting things in order, hasn't it?" I shot back. "You're not here for me, Alyssa. You're here for the money, just like Mom and Dad." Her eyes flickered for a second, but she quickly masked it with a forced smile. "Don't be dramatic. You've been the responsible one your whole life. This is just part of it." "No," I said, the words coming out like a confession I wasn't going to take back. "I'm done being responsible for everything. I'm done doing it all for them. And I'm done letting you walk all over me." She blinked, her face suddenly tightening. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying you can take your papers and go. I don't want anything from you or from them. When I'm gone, you'll get exactly what you deserve. You and Mom and Dad." For a moment, Alyssa just stared at me, like she didn't recognize me. She opened her mouth as if to say something, but she didn't. Instead, she turned and left the room, her footsteps echoing in the hallway. I wasn't sure what I'd expected. Maybe I wanted her to argue more, to beg me to change my mind, but she didn't. It was like I had made my point, like she finally understood I wasn't going to be her pawn anymore. The following days felt different. I could almost taste the change in the air around me, like something was shifting, and for once it wasn't just my body. There was a clarity in my thoughts, a steeliness in my resolve. I'd made my decision. I wasn't going to let my parents or my sister dictate the end of my life. For the first time, I felt like I was in control of something, even if it was just a shred of it. But I knew the real confrontation was coming. I could feel it. It was a few days after I'd refused to sign any more documents when my parents finally showed up. My mother and father walked into the room together, their faces as stiff and formal as always. They were dressed in their usual Sunday best, even though it was a Thursday. My mother had that same tight smile on her face, the one that was so fake it made my skin crawl. And my father? Well, he was just there. He had a way of standing that made you feel like you were the problem in every situation, like he was somehow always right. "Hello, Tina," my mother said, her voice as sweet as honey, but I could hear the edge beneath it. "We wanted to talk to you about your will." I didn't even look up at them. I was too busy watching the IV drip, watching the tiny drops of fluid that barely seemed to matter anymore. "You can talk all you want," I said quietly. "I'm not signing anything else." My father cleared his throat. "Tina, this isn't about what you want anymore. This is about doing what's best for you and for the family." I laughed, though it was hollow and bitter. "For the family? Is that what you call it? You haven't been here for me in weeks, not when I was sick, not when I needed you most. And now you think you can just waltz in here and expect me to hand over everything without a fight?" They exchanged a glance, that silent look they always shared when they were strategizing. I had seen it 1,000 times before. My father took a step closer to me, his face a mask of calm, but I knew him well enough to see the frustration simmering underneath. "Tina, you're not in any position to make demands. You know we love you, but this is how things have to be. You can't keep this all to yourself." I let out a shaky breath. "You don't love me. Not really. You've always made it clear that I was just here to take care of you, to do the work, but you never gave a damn about me. Not when I needed you. Not when I was struggling. You just let me handle everything while you sat back and watched. Their expressions didn't change, but there was something cold in my mother's eyes now, something sharper. You're being dramatic, Tina. We just want to make sure everything is in order. For your own good. For my good? I repeated, the words tasting sour in my mouth. You don't get it. You never did. This wasn't about me. It was about control. And now you think you can come in and fix it by playing nice? You can't fix this with money, and you can't fix this by pretending you care. My father stepped forward. I won't have you talking to your mother like that. I met his gaze head on. You don't get to control me anymore. I'm done letting you use me. Done letting you ignore me when it's convenient for you. For a second, there was silence. I could hear my breath rasping in the stillness of the room. I was shaking, but not from fear. No, it was something else, something I hadn't felt in a long time. Power. I had finally found my voice. My mother's lips thinned into a tight line. You're being selfish. No, I said, my voice clear now, stronger than it had been in years. I'm being realistic. You two have made me feel like I don't matter my entire life. Well, now you'll understand what that feels like. It was then that I saw it. My father, the man who had always been in control, had a flicker of doubt in his eyes. It was small, but it was there. For the first time, I wasn't the one squirming under their judgment. They were. And that felt good. But just when I thought the confrontation was over, my mother did something I wasn't expecting. You really think you can just walk away from everything? She asked, her voice cold now, cutting through the tension in the room. You're dying, Tina. And when you're gone, there won't be anything left. Nothing. Do you really want that? Do you really think anyone will remember you if you don't make this right? For a moment, her words hung in the air like a fog, suffocating everything around me. I could feel my heart lurch in my chest, but I wasn't going to let her see that. She didn't get to manipulate me anymore. Let me die in peace, Mom, I said, each word biting with the truth I'd been holding back for years. Let me go without you using my death to get what you want. I'm not here to fix your mistakes. She glared at me, her eyes filled with contempt. Then, without another word, she turned on her heel and left the room. My father followed her, though I could hear the sharpness in his footsteps as he went. And just like that, they were gone again. As quickly as they had shown up, they left me, still alone. I was shaking now, but not from fear. I was shaking with something else, relief. For the first time, I felt like I had a small victory. I wasn't done yet. I couldn't be. Days turned into weeks, and my body seemed to weaken by the hour, but I wasn't going to back down. The more I thought about everything they'd done, my parents, Alyssa, even the way they all manipulated me, I realized something. This wasn't just about the inheritance. It wasn't just about what I'd lose. This was about them finally paying for the years of neglect, for the way they'd tossed me aside when I was no longer useful to them. I had no choice but to keep pushing forward. Alyssa didn't show up again for a while. At first, I thought it was because she was angry. But then, when Karen visited to review my will again, she mentioned something that made my blood run cold. She's been talking to your parents about pushing everything through, Karen said, looking over the papers. She's trying to rush this, Tina. If you don't take action soon, they'll make sure you're completely erased from the picture. I clenched my fists. The betrayal I felt from Alyssa was like a slap to the face. She was supposed to be my sister, my family. How could she turn on me like this? How could she just abandon me to work with the people who had used me my whole life? I'm not going to let them win, I said, my voice as firm as I could manage, though my strength was slowly fading. Let's go over this again, Tina. If you're serious about leaving them nothing, we have to be sure everything is locked in. We need to make it clear you're not willing to let them take anything from you, Karen said. You have to stand your ground. If you can't fight them now, this will be your last chance. I nodded, but it felt like my chest was caving in. Part of me still wanted to believe there was a way to fix this, that somehow, after everything, I could find a way to make things right. But deep down, I knew better. There would be no redemption, not for them, not for me. A week later, I got the call. It wasn't from Alyssa. It wasn't from my parents. It was from the lawyer who had handled the estate for years. His name was Mr. Bradford. His voice was too calm, too smooth. "Tina," he said, as if it was just a casual conversation, "your parents have agreed to settle everything for you. They'll be taking care of the will, of the estate. They want everything wrapped up as quickly as possible." My heart clenched in my chest. "I don't think they get it. I haven't signed anything yet. I'm still alive." "I'm afraid they've already started making preparations. The documentation you signed earlier is still in place," he continued, voice unwavering. "You should prepare for the inevitable." Prepare for the inevitable? I wanted to scream. But instead, I closed my eyes. They really thought I was going to let them do this? "No," I said, my voice cold. "They can't do this. Not without my consent. It's already in motion, Tina. There's nothing more you can do." I hung up the phone with a cold, empty silence in the room, the weight of his words pressing down on me like a stone. The realization hit me harder than anything else. They'd won. The papers were already filed. The inheritance was slipping through my fingers, and the law, was backing them up. I couldn't let this happen. Not without a fight. But how? How could I stop this now, when everything was already set in motion? The answer came to me slowly, painfully. I had one card left to play, one thing I could still control. A few days later, I gathered all the strength I had left. I asked Karen to help me set up a meeting with Mr. Bradford. It was risky, but I didn't have much time. "I'm not going to let them walk in here and take everything from me," I told Karen as she arranged the meeting. "If I have to die for it, then so be it. But they won't get away with this." When the day of the meeting arrived, I was barely able to sit up in the bed. But I forced myself to. I had to look strong. I had to look like I still had control. Mr. Bradford arrived promptly, his face as neutral as ever. But there was something in his eyes, a flicker of uncertainty as I looked him in the eye and spoke. "I've changed my mind," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. "I want to review the papers again. I want everything to be on my terms. I'm not dying yet." He raised an eyebrow but didn't argue. "Are you sure you want to do this now, Tina? Time is of the essence." "I don't care about time," I said. "I care about what's mine. And I'll be damned if I let them take it without a fight." I saw it then, the shift, the slight hesitation. He was trying to maintain his professional calm, but I could see the confusion in his eyes. He didn't know how to deal with this. My parents had underestimated me. They'd thought they could just brush me off, take control, and walk away. But now I had the upper hand. "Fine," he said, though it was clear he didn't like the situation. "We'll review it, but I'll need your final decision." I could feel the weight of his gaze, the pressure to make the decision right then and there. It was a game of chicken. Who would blink first? But I didn't blink. Not this time. "We'll go through it all," I said. "Every last detail. Because I'm not leaving here without knowing I've fought for what's mine." He didn't say anything. He just pulled out the papers and laid them out on the table. And for the first time in weeks, I felt like I had a chance. The meeting with Mr. Bradford went longer than I expected, but the entire time I felt like I was playing a game of chess, each move calculated, each word I spoke a step closer to my victory. The papers, those God-forsaken documents, spread across the table like a battlefield. There they were, in black and white, everything I had worked for, everything I had built, everything I had loved, all reduced to a series of legal clauses and signatures. My body ached with each passing minute, but my mind was sharp. This wasn't over. Mr. Bradford glanced up at me once, his eyes narrowing, but his voice remained steady. "Tina, we both know what this is really about. You want control of what's yours, but there are things you're not seeing." "What things?" I asked, leaning forward in the bed. I felt like I was finally in the driver's seat. Your parents have been very strategic with how they've handled your health. They didn't just want your estate, they wanted to tie up loose ends, he said slowly, as if the words themselves were heavy. They've had things prepared for a while now. If you were to pass, your sister and they would walk away with everything, no questions asked. I felt a chill creep over me. What do you mean prepared? I was trembling now, the weight of his words sinking in. Not only were they expecting your decline, but they've been making moves behind the scenes. They've had everything set up, from your will to your medical care, to ensure that when the time came, they'd be in a position of power, he continued, his voice lowering. They didn't want to wait for you to make the final decisions on your own. It was like someone had thrown a bucket of ice-cold water over me. Had they planned it all? Every interaction, every dismissal, every promise of care, it had all been about one thing: control. The inheritance wasn't just a matter of money, it was their ticket to something they felt entitled to, regardless of what happened to me. My blood ran cold. And Alyssa? I asked, barely able to breathe. Mr. Bradford hesitated, his eyes flickering. Alyssa, she's been in constant contact with your parents about accelerating this process. They've made sure she's aware of all the details. She's not as innocent as you think, Tina. She's been working with them to finalize everything for the past few months. I felt the betrayal hit me like a punch to the stomach. Alyssa, my own sister, the one person I thought might have had some shred of loyalty, had been complicit in this entire scheme. She had been a part of it all along. No, she had been leading it. And now they had worked it out so that once I was gone, they could walk away with everything. You're telling me Alyssa has been part of this from the start? I whispered, disbelief flooding my chest. I'm afraid so, Mr. Bradford said, his voice heavy. She didn't want to be left out. She's been in talks with your parents about getting the property liquidated quickly, without any disputes. She's already drawing up plans to finalize everything. It's all about the money now. I closed my eyes, struggling to process the horror of it all. My parents, my sister, they had all planned my demise. They had manipulated every aspect of my life for their own gain. My illness, my suffering, it had all been a means to an end. The cruelty of it nearly made me sick to my stomach. Why are you telling me this? I asked, my voice hoarse. Mr. Bradford's gaze softened, just for a moment. Because you need to understand what's happening. You need to realize that if you don't act now, everything will be taken from you. And once you're gone, there won't be anyone left to fight for it. I felt an overwhelming wave of despair, mixed with rage. They had won before I even realized the game had started. But now I was awake. I was aware. I wasn't going to let them win. Not like this. I'm not dying yet, I said, barely above a whisper. It wasn't a plea, it was a declaration. Mr. Bradford's eyes met mine, and I could see the uncertainty in them. He wasn't used to this kind of confrontation. But I was done being passive, done being the one who had to sit quietly and wait for everything to be taken. I was taking control. It was my last chance. I want to see everything you have, I said, my voice gaining strength. All the documents, all the evidence. I want to know exactly what they've been planning, every detail. He hesitated, but then nodded. I can provide it, Tina, but I'm warning you, this isn't going to be easy. It will be a fight, and you may not come out of it the way you think. Good, I said, my voice steady. Let it be a fight, because I'm not going down without one. I could feel the fight in my chest, rising like a storm. I knew it wouldn't be easy. I knew it would take everything I had left. But for the first time in what felt like forever, I was ready. I wasn't just a victim anymore. I was a survivor, and I was going to make sure my voice was heard, even if I had to scream it from the rooftops. The next few days were a blur of lawyers, papers, and meetings. But no matter how much they tried to push me into a corner, no matter how much they tried to convince me that there was no hope left, I refused to give in. Every document Mr. Bradford showed me made my blood boil. My parents had orchestrated everything, from the terms of my will to the way they manipulated my health. They had used me like a pawn in a game I hadn't even known I was playing. The truth was right in front of me now. They had always been the enemy. But I wasn't going to let them get away with it. And when I finally signed the documents, my final decision, it wasn't a surrender. It wasn't acceptance. It was my declaration of war.